So the first thing you're going to need is some toilet paper and a large pot of boiling water. So once you get your big pot of boiling water boiling, you're going to use a pair of tongs and quickly dip one side of the toilet paper in and the other. Now, as you probably know, toilet paper is very absorbent. So there's no need to put the toilet paper in there for very long, just 1 second, because it sucks up a ton of water and then it starts to disintegrate. And then place it on a rack to cool. And the instructions say if you like, you can remove the core. That will allow the mycelia to get into the toilet paper a lot faster. So now we're going to take our bag of mycelia and crush it up a little bit to separate the grains. And then just cut the corner off, and then we're going to fill the inside of the toilet paper with the mycelia grains up to the very top. We're going to draw up the plastic bag and then take the rubber bands that are provided and seal it at the top. And make sure you secure it above the filter patch. It's important that the mushrooms can still breathe. So now we're going to take our inoculated toilet paper and put them in an undisturbed spot at around 65 to 75 degrees. I just put them in the closet and place them in there for 4 to 6 weeks. So what's happening here? We're encouraging the mycelia from the grains to start growing into the toilet paper. So in the first week, I noticed that the entire toilet paper started getting covered with this white mycelia. The grains too were covered, and I just let them sit. I always go in there and peek, take a look at them. And I also noticed this really lovely smell. It almost smelled like an extract. Almost cinnamony, kind of sweet. People often think of like stinky shoes, but this was very pleasant and sweet. And we're going to take the entire bag and place it in the refrigerator for 48 hours. These cold temperatures are simulating winter, a period of dormancy. So after 48 hours, we're going to remove the rubber band and open the bag slightly and allow some warm air to enter the bag. I purchased this mister and I really love it. It creates a really fine mist. And so just check on your mushrooms. If they look like they're getting a little dry, give them a mist, but don't let any water collect at the bottom because too much water is not good either. So when you're waiting for your mushrooms to fruit, you're going to put them in a spot that gets some filtered sunlight. After just a couple of days, I started to see mushrooms. It was so stinking cool. You can just see these little tiny, like little baby mushrooms start coming up. And it was so interesting to see the 3 different varieties because they had different growing patterns. This is one of my Italian mushrooms. So beautiful. Isn't that incredible? It looks like antlers or something. Now the kit specifies if you really want a prolific amount of mushrooms, toilet paper is not the best substrate, but this is great for demonstrating to children how mushrooms are such wonderful decomposers. So now I'm going to show you one of my favorite ways to eat mushrooms, and it's simply on a good piece of toast. Make this your own. Feel free to tailor this to however you like your mushrooms. So now we're going to harvest these beautiful mushrooms. These are the Italians, and I'm just going to use my knife here and cut them right off. Oh, so beautiful. Look at that. That is huge. So the instructions included in the kit so that we can get more mushrooms from this if we just repeat the steps that we did prior. I'm going to try some of these as well. These are the gray oyster mushrooms. My golden ones aren't quite ready yet. I'm going to let them continue growing. So oyster mushrooms are so delicate, you don't even need a knife to break them. You can just tear them with your fingers like that. Mushrooms and onions are best friends, and I often saute my mushrooms with onion, but today I'm keeping it simple. Just going to use a little bit of butter. So while that's melting up, I'm going to slice some bread. Durum loaf here. Love the sound of bread. That looks good. In go a handful of mushrooms. Just going to sweat these up a bit. Don't disturb them, just let them sit there. And now I'm going to prepare my toast. So add a little bit more butter. Don't want the heat too high. Toast up that bread. Beautiful. Turn my toast over. Get crispy on the other side. So I'm going to transfer my mushrooms to a plate. And I'm going to add some sharp cheddar cheese right on top. I'm just going to cover it and just steam it a little bit to allow the cheese to melt a bit. Alrighty, my toasties should be ready. Okay, look at that. Look at that. I'm going to arrange my mushrooms right on top. Let's give my cheesy mushroom toast a taste. Here we go. Itadakimasu. So delicious. Salty, nutty, golden, buttery, crisp, delicious. So good. Oyster mushrooms are some of my favorite mushrooms. They caramelize deeply. They have lots of inherent sugars in them, but they have a nice wide range of flavors. The golden mushrooms that I've tasted, those have a really complex, almost funky, sea, briny, oceany flavor to them, while these have a nice nuttiness. This is a combination of both the gray and the Italian. They're sweet, and they pair so nicely with the cheese and the butter. I mean, butter goes with everything, but butter really goes well with mushrooms, in my opinion. So delicious. And we have some beautiful textures here. We have the chew of the bread, the crunch of the bread, with that kind of crisp caramelization that happens on the thin oyster mushrooms. It is so simple, yet so good. So good. So I made this with a nice, sharp, dry cheddar cheese, but I think this would also go really well with a nice aged Swiss style cheese like an Emmentaler or a Gruyere. That nuttiness I think would go so well with the mushrooms and the crunchy toast and butter. And to think I grew this beautiful, delicious, delectable treat from toilet paper. Absolutely amazing. Thanks again for watching. I hope you enjoyed that one. I hope you learned something. Toodaloo. Take care. Bye.